A city erased from the maps, buried beneath tons of concrete. A massive tragedy. This is Mayak, one of the darkest secrets of the Soviet Union, one of the most radioactive places on Earth. In 1957, when the sky turned that deadly blue, the fate of thousands was lost in a cloud of toxic dust. The military was there, history was there, but the truth was silenced. Now, it's time to open that concrete coffin, because some secrets never stay buried. Was producing plutonium for its nuclear weapons program. Everything seemed under control, but deep inside, an unseen mistake was growing. Massive tanks stored radioactive waste beneath thick concrete walls. Their cooling systems had begun to fail. Sensors went silent. Warnings were ignored. Inside the tanks, the temperature kept rising, second by second. This was no longer a technical issue. It was a countdown. An invisible force was building in silence. Uncontrolled heat accelerated chemical reactions, turning the tank into a pressure bomb. No one realized it, but a nuclear volcano was waking up. September 29, 1957, 1622. In a single moment, everything changed. A 160-ton concrete lid was blown into the air like paper. But this was not a normal explosion. There were no flames, no familiar blast sound, only a sharp metallic taste in the air, and an unnatural silence. Then came the cloud, a massive column of radioactive dust rising into the sky. This was the invisible face of death. In nearby villages, people looked out their windows in confusion. The sky turned into a glowing blue they had never seen before. The strange light was almost beautiful. Some thought it was a natural phenomenon. Children ran outside and played under the falling dust. No one knew that what touched their skin was poison. The wind carried the cloud to the northeast. Within hours, nearly 20,000 square kilometers were contaminated. Life continued as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. The air, the clothes, even their skin carried an unseen killer. The first signs appeared days later. Animals died first. Then people began to fall ill. Burns on the skin, extreme fatigue, wounds that would not heal. Yet the truth was never told. Authorities gave only one explanation. It's an outbreak. The reality was hidden to prevent panic. But behind the scenes, a darker plan was already in motion. The disaster had reached a point of no return. Entire villages were marked to be erased. People were ordered to leave their homes. This was not a normal evacuation. They were allowed to take nothing. Some were even told to burn everything they left behind. Memories, photographs, entire lives, reduced to ash. Where were these people taken? Why were they silenced? And how did the Soviet Union hide a disaster of this scale from the world for so long? The answers are still buried beneath the ground, but not forever. When the mesmerizing blue light in the sky finally faded, it left no peace behind, only a heavy, metallic silence. No one knew exactly what had happened, but that night, the very air of the Urals changed forever. When the children woke the next morning, they found a strange, glowing layer of dust blanketing the snow. They gathered it in their hands. They smelled it. Some even threw it at one another like shimmering powder. They had no way of knowing that this beautiful, white dust carried lethal, radioactive particles in every grain. It was silent, it was invisible, and it was already deep within their bodies. The state, however, had made its decision. These people were not to be warned. They were not to be saved. They were to be erased. Shortly after the blast, a massive military operation began across the contaminated zone. But those who arrived were not doctors. They were soldiers and strangers in chemical hazmat suits. When they entered the villages, only one command echoed: ask no questions. Get on the trucks. No explanation was offered. The word radiation was never uttered. Thousands of villagers were told they were being moved due to a temporary epidemic. That was all. But as they looked back from the tailgates of those military trucks, many saw a sight they would never forget. Soldiers were burying their lives in deep pits. Beds, clothes, furniture, family photos, everything they once owned was being discarded. Even the animals left in the barns were killed and buried. Then, the pits were sealed with concrete. This was not an evacuation. It was a liquidation. The Soviet state was not just moving people. It was destroying every trace of their existence. Soon, entire villages vanished from maps. Roads were closed. Names were deleted from official records. Lands where families had lived for generations turned into forbidden zones overnight. Even nature began to wither. Forests near the radioactive trace died. Leaves shriveled. Trees lost their color. In some areas, the soil looked pale and lifeless, as if the very blood of the earth had been drained. People would later call these the dead forests. But how far did this invisible death truly spread? Who was the first to realize that something horrific had happened behind the Iron Curtain? And what lay waiting on the shores of Lake Karachay, one of the most dangerous places on Earth? The archives are not yet closed. Imagine a place where standing on the shore for just 1 hour is enough to kill you. A lake whose waters are not azure, but a cocktail of radioactive poison. This is Lake Karachay, the most dangerous spot on Earth. After the 1957 disaster, the Soviets didn't know what to do with their nuclear waste, so they chose the easiest path. They dumped it all into this lake. But the eyes in the sky were watching. An apocalypse was unfolding behind the Iron Curtain, and strangely, even their enemies were helping them hide it. By 1967, a severe drought struck the region, drying up Lake Karachay. The radioactive mud at the bottom turned into a fine dust under the sun, and then the wind began. These poison winds lifted the death from the lakebed into the air, spreading it across an even wider area than the original 1957 blast. 500,000 people were caught in a nuclear rain for the second time. The Soviets concealed this as well. However, the West was already on the trail. CIA U-2 spy planes were photographing the strange activity over Mayak. The spies saw the empty villages, the massive newly dug pits, and the changes in Karachay. The CIA had known since the late 1950s that a nuclear disaster had occurred. Why didn't they warn the world? The answer was more shocking than the disaster itself: their own nuclear programs. If America announced the Soviet accident, their own citizens would fear the nuclear plants at home. The two superpowers had made a silent pact to hide each other's nuclear sins. Thousands were left to die as victims of Cold War diplomacy. Where is Lake Karachay today? Why did it have to be completely covered in concrete? And how does this tragedy, which began in 1957, continue to claim victims in the depths of modern Russia? In the final episode, we turn the last pages of the forgotten archives, the nuclear ghosts of the future. You can erase it from the maps, and you can change its name in the dusty shelves of history, but you can never destroy the memory of the atom. Today, in the heart of the Urals, the world's greatest nuclear ghost continues to wander in silence. This is not just a story of the past. It is a legacy that still breathes, still chooses its victims, and insidiously threatens our future. Lake Karachay may no longer be visible to the eye, but the monster beneath the concrete is wide awake. And the final page of the archives whispers the most jarring truth. The Teka River was once life itself for thousands of villagers. The Soviet state knew the water was lethal. They were well aware that pure death was flowing through the riverbed. Yet, they remained silent. They did nothing more than tell the people not to swim in the river. The villagers drank that poison. They irrigated their fields with that death, and they bathed their children in that water. As the years passed, the villages along the banks of the Teka turned into history's most terrifying living laboratories. Without their knowledge, innocent people were made subjects in a massive nuclear experiment. Today, the new generations born on those shores still carry this dark legacy. They harbor the price of that silence within their very cells. In the late 1980s, the Soviet Union decided to eliminate Lake Karachay entirely. However, this was not a cleanup. It was an act of imprisonment. Tens of thousands of concrete blocks were dropped onto the toxic waters, like a massive coffin. Today, Karachay might look like an ordinary concrete field overgrown with grass. But this was not a solution. It was only buying time. Radioactive waste continues to seep through the cracks in the concrete, merging with the groundwater. That massive, invisible energy is advancing from the depths of the earth toward the very lifeblood of Russia. It is a nuclear clock with its pin pulled, its timer set for thousands of years, ticking away stealthily beneath the surface. And what of the people? What happened to the children who played innocently under that shimmering dust in 1957? Most of them never lived to grow old. Those who survived turned into shadow people, their names recorded in official files only as unexplained illnesses. Mayak and Karachay are the harshest warnings the nuclear age has left for humanity. when science is severed from conscience and honesty. What emerges is not progress, but pure destruction. The Soviet Union collapsed, borders changed, and walls fell. But the winds of the Urals still carry that cold, metallic silence. The Forgotten Archives closes its curtain here today, but the story of this land is far from over. As you watch this video, atoms beneath the concrete sarcophagus of Karachay are still splitting, and the earth is still burning from within. History is built upon the shoulders of the forgotten, and we will continue to be their voice. Until the next file, until the next secret,